Good morning student, welcome in your science class. In your previous class, we have covered the most of the portions of this chapter. We are going through the first chapter of the 5th standard of the science book, the reproductions in plants. Today's video, we have covered the left portions of this chapter. So, today we start the topic crops. What are crops? Crops are plants grown in the particular field at a certain time. It gives us food and the other things. So what is the meaning of crops? When we plant one particular grains in the particular seasons in a large amount, that is known crops. And crops gives us the food of millions of people. We have to prepare the soil according to its need and requirements of particular crop. So here one thing should be clear to all of you that different types of crop need different type of requirements. Requirements means the soil type, the weather, the rainfall, everything. These all things are requirements for growing crops. Plants grow in different climates and seasons. They also require the different kinds of soil. Crops like rice and jute grow well in the clay soil. This line is important. So all of you mark it by underline. Crops like rice and jute grow well in clay soil. So if the question is come in your exam that which type of soil is need or best for growing the rice and jute, then all of you write the clay soil, because this type of soil holds plenty of water. At the time when seedlings are transplanted of this kind of crops like rice and jute, the field had to be filled with water, because this kind of crops need more water. Okay, and as the clay soil is absorbed more amount of water, that's why the clay soil is good or best for growing rice and jute. Now, most rice is grown in and around the West Bengal. This is also very important thing that you should be know that where the rice grown. Mostly West Bengal, Odisha, Bihar, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so from this para we get two type questions. One is which type of soil required for the rice and jute. Then you have tell alright clay soil. And number two question is where the rice is grown mostly. मतलब राइस कहाँ पे कौन सा रीजन पे राइस ज़्यादा होता है. So where the rice is grown mostly? Yes, in the West Bengal or around the West Bengal. In मतलब West Bengal में अंदर मतलब बंगाल में सबसे ज़्यादा डिमांड है राइस का. And then the other state. Okay, and the Odisha, Bihar, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, there is also rice is grown mostly. Now next we are discuss about the another one grain of crops, that is wheat. Wheat grows well in the clay soil, highly produced instead of Punjab. So in which type of soil needs for growing wheat? Yes, clay soil. Clay soil. And where the wheat produce mostly? The wheat produce in state of Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. Now, next another crops like jowar and bajra grows well in sandy soil. So in that case we will see that the different type of crops or grain need different type of soil. Okay, for example we can say that the rice need clay soil, the wheat also need the clay soil, but the jowar and bajra need the sandy soil. Sandy soil means in which soil the amount of sand is more than the other things. Okay, that is called sandy soil. And where it highly produced, the jowar and bajra highly produced in the Rajasthan. Okay, so from this para there are so many short questions, fill in the blanks, true false may become. So all of you should be learn the whole chapter throughout the line by line. Okay. Now the crops like groundnuts and cotton are grown in the black soil. Yes, this is very important thing. Which type of soil is best or need for the cotton or groundnut? The black soil. Okay. Now coconut trees grow in the coastal areas. What is the meaning of coastal areas? Yes, the areas beside or around the seashore. मतलब समुद्र की आसपास की जितना भी इलाका है, समुद्र आशे-पाशे तीरवर्ती सब इलाकों के बोले coastal areas. Okay. Wait just a moment. Now, coconut trees grow in the coastal areas. Okay, so if the questions come, name one crops or plant trees that grow in the coastal area, then you have to write the coconut trees. Okay, crops like wheat, gram, mustard and pulses that grow in the winter are called Rabi crops. This is very important thing. What is the Rabi crops and what is the Kharif crops? Okay. So all of you should be underline this thing. Crops like wheat, gram, mustard and pulses that grow in winter are called Rabi crops. In that case, I want to say one thing, that if the question is come, what is the Rabi crops? Then you don't write only the name of the crops, that wheat, gram and mustard. No, if you write only name of the crops, that case you not get the full marks, because this all are example of the Rabi crops. So what you have write? The definitions of the Rabi crops. The crops that grow in the winter. The crops that grow during the winter are called Rabi crops. Then you give the example of the Rabi crops, that are wheat, gram, mustard and pulses. Okay? Understand everyone? Now, next the Kharif crops. So first I tell the definition of Kharif crops. Yes. So I tell you the definitions of the Kharif crops. The crops which are grow during the summer. The crops which are grow during the summer are called Kharif crops. And then all of you give the example of the Kharif crops like rice, maize, jowar and bajra. Okay. So these two questions are very much important and it is almost come to your exam. What is the Rabi crops and what is the Kharif crops? Now what is the difference between the Rabi crops and Kharif crops? Now next thing is the plantation. Plantations are places where tea, coffee and rubber are grown. So what is the plantations? Plantations mean the places where the tea, coffee and rubber are grown. and this all things are mostly grown in the mountain or hilly region. Okay, most plantations are on hill slopes. Tea plants need moist soil and grow on the slopes of the hilly areas. So how the tea plants is grown? The tea plants need moist soil. Moist means which soil is absorb little bit amount water always. This type of soil are called moist soil. मतलब जो soil हमेशा थोड़ा भीगा भीगा रहता है उसको बोलते हैं moist soil. And grow on the slopes of hilly area, मतलब sloping में होता है, ठीक है? Now like Assam, Darjeeling and Nilgiri hills. So where the tea plants grow? Assam, Darjeeling and Nilgiri hills. Now, tea made from the leaves of the tea plants and the coffee from the seeds of the coffee plant. So, for which portions we get tea? Tea is made from the leaves of the tea plant and coffee from the seeds of the coffee plant. Now, the next topic that we will discuss, that is vegetables. Vegetables like brinjal and gourd, pumpkin and the lady's fingers grow well in the warm climate. These vegetables grow in plain during the summer. So which vegetables are summer vegetables? Yes, the vegetables which are grown in the summer season like brinjal, gourd, pumpkin, etc. And the other vegetables like carrot, turnip, radish, bean, cauliflower, these all vegetables are grown during the winter, in hills during the summer. Now, one more important thing you should be know, that is manure. What is the manure? Manure is added to soil to increase the productions of vegetables. Nowadays, a small amount of chemical fertilizers like urea, manure is added to soil. Why we add the manure in the soil? We add manure in the soil to increase the productions of the vegetables. A small amount of chemical fertilizer like urea, phosphates, ammonia, sulfate and nitrates are added to the soil. But the overuse of these chemicals can be harmful. Okay, organic fertilizers is very much good. There is no harm. But if we use the most amount of the chemical fertilizer, so in that case it can be harmful. Now we should the protections of crops. For good productions and healthy crop, we must use good seeds, better sowing and well prepared soil. Right kind of manures or fertilizer should be used and soil must have sufficient water. मतलब जो भी क्रॉप हम लोग अच्छे क्रॉप्स को चाहते हैं उसके लिए पहले हम लोगों को गुड सीड वी हैव टू चूज द गुड सीड्स. ओके, क्योंकि सीड से प्लांट आता है तो पहले जितना सीड्स का क्वालिटी अच्छा होगा, हाउ मच द सीड्स क्वालिटी इज गुड, देन द क्वालिटी ऑफ द क्रॉप इज आल्सो गुड. And then we are very careful the time of sowing, and we before sowing this seed we must be prepare the soil. This type of soil are needed for the particular crops. Now right kind of manures crops need the different kinds of manures or fertilizers. So this informations we should be know that which crops need which manures and fertilizers. Then we are used, and soil must have sufficient water. The crop should be protected from grazing animals like cows, buffaloes, goats and insects like caterpillars, grasshoppers and the locusts. These insects can damage and prevent from the proper growth of the crops. So this thing we should be careful notice that any types of grazing animals like cows, buffaloes are not be harmful these crops, and the some insects damage the growth of the crops. So in that case we also be very careful and we should be look after this thing. Fungi, viruses and bacteria can cause diseases to the plants. So fungi, viruses and the bacteria can cause disease to the plant. This is very important. We can use, so how can we protect the crops from this kind of microorganism? So we can use insecticide and pesticide chemical sprays on standing crops to prevent the diseases by the fungi, viruses and bacteria. मतलब ये सारे माइक्रोऑर्गेनिज्म से जो भी कॉजेज डिजीजेज हो सकता है उससे बचने के लिए हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं, डिफरेंट टाइप जो इंसेक्टिसाइड मतलब इंसेक्ट को मारने के लिए जो स्प्रे यूज होते हैं उसको बोलते हैं इंसेक्टिसाइड, पेस्ट को मारने के लिए जो भी यूज होते हैं उसको बोलते हैं पेस्टिसाइड। वो सारा चीज हम लोग क्रॉप के ऊपर यूज कर सकते हैं। इफ दीज आर स्प्रेड प्रॉपरली दे कैन प्रोटेक्ट द क्रॉप्स फ्रॉम बीइंग डिस्ट्रॉयड बाय इंसेक्ट। We can also use the organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizer means गोबर। तो हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं, for increase the growth of crop and the amount of the crop, we can use the organic fertilizer. A lot of damage is done if the grain and seeds are not properly stored after harvesting of crops. So after harvesting of crops, all crops are not be used. Which are the extra crops? So that extra crops should be remain or stored in the proper way. That should be kept in the airtight container, because in the air there should be different type of microorganisms that we cannot see. The moist of the atmosphere can destroy the crops. So that's why the extra crops after harvesting we can store the airtight container. Okay? Crops should be kept safe from rats, moles, birds, squirrels and insects. Grain must be stored in airtight container to keep away moisture. That thing we already tell to you. Okay? So now the chapter is completed. I hope these two videos are very much help to everyone to understand this chapter. Okay. So thank you students. Have a good day. Bye bye.